What's up everyone, Adam from Cape Crawlers, and in this video I'm going to show you how to do a motor swap and a gear change in the Traxxas TRX4M. Motor and transmission upgrades here. This is pretty simple on the TRX4M. The motor swaps are a little different than the SCX24, mainly because there's extra steps, which you'll see in a minute. But we're doing the gears and the motor at the same time because you have to break down the transmission to access the motor. So I figured while we're in there, we'll go over how to do a gear change too. The tools you'll need to do this swap, you're going to need a 1.5mm hex driver. I'm doing metal transmission gears, so if you're doing a metal gear swap, you will want some grease. I really like the Cow RC Udder Butter, it works fantastic, so we're going to need that. If you're just doing composite gear swap like the Traxxas gears, you would not need to grease them. Let's get into this. So with the body off, see our motors right here in the front. We're doing an aftermarket to aftermarket swap, but the steps are no different if I was taking the stock Traxxas motor out. First thing we're going to do is remove the battery tray. Just going to set that off to the side. Now to pull the motor and transmission off, there are 4 bolts. There's one at each corner of the mounting plate here. So we're just going to undo these 4. I have learned that these Traxxas bolts strip out very easy, so be careful when you're doing these. Especially when you retighten them, you want to be cautious. Okay, with those 4 done, we should be able to just pop the motor and transmission off of the skid. You lift it up and your drive shafts should come right out. Now with the whole transmission and the motor out, we're just going to trace our wire back and unplug the motor. The motor plug on the Traxxas ESC is right here in the front. There's our combo out. Next I'm going to undo my drive shafts, front and rear. Now we just have our transmission case here we need to take off. So we're going to move these 4 bolts on the rear of the transmission housing. Okay, now with our housing, lean this towards the motor side and then you're going to pull this cover off. I like to press down on the drive shaft there to make sure that the gears stay inside in the order that they already are in. Here's the inside of our housing here. This is just a bearing that popped off by the looks of it. This is a good point to familiarize yourself with the Traxxas owner's manual, which you can access online, or it should have come with your vehicle, but it has the schematic and the exploded view of this transmission to help guide you on putting this back together. Generally, when I'm in here, I like to just take it out sequentially and just kind of set them aside in that order. When I reassemble this, I'm going to go inside to outside in that order. But now that we've got the case opened up, now you can see your 2 bolts here for removing the motor. So with the gears out, we're just going to remove these 2 bolts here. Now you can see why this is a good opportunity to do a gear swap or upgrade while you do your motor swap, because you have to take the whole transmission apart to get to it anyway. You might as well take advantage of that and do it while you can. And that's it. You just pop the old motor off. We put the new motor on. Now we're ready to reassemble our transmission. Now if I were doing the stock gears, I would just put them back in the opposite order that I took them out. But since we're doing a gear upgrade, we're going to put the new metal gears in. These are Endura steel crawler gears. You can see it comes with a pinion gear. I could swap out the stock plastic gear with the pinion. I don't need that since my Holmes Hobbies motors already has the metal pinion gear on it. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to line up my new gears in the same fashion that I would as if I was assembling the previous versions. Any necessary hardware that I need to do this, I'm going to need to take this rod out of these gears right here. I'm going to insert that into the new gears. Just trying to mimic the stock setup as much as possible. Any bearings that you need, take those with you. Now we should be ready to start reassembling. This is also a good time, if you haven't done it, to do the bearing conversion. Most of these, unless you've done the upgraded transmission directly from Traxxas, are going to have bushings in here. I highly recommend you do the bearing conversion, the upgrade as well. And again, while you've got the transmission cracked open, great opportunity to swap out these bushings that would be in here for bearings. It just makes for a more smoothly operating and efficient drivetrain by doing that. But in any case, let's get after it here. As I work my way through, I'm going to be applying some grease to each kind of section here. There are syringes available to make greasing much easier. I wish I had one. I should invest in one because this would make it a whole lot nicer. And less messy too, as you can see. Okay, that should be ready to go. Now we're just going to pop our case back on. That went on very smoothly. Now what I like to do is throw a drive shaft on here. I'm going to put one bolt in my transmission cover just to hold it in place. I'm going to put my drive shaft on here just so that I can test my mesh. You want to make sure you've got nice smooth operation forward and backward. There's no binding. That one feels and sounds excellent. So I think we're in good shape. So now I'm going to just tighten up the transmission with the rest of the bolts. And again, feels great. So now I'm going to just reinstall my drive shaft at both ends. Now we're ready to put this back in the vehicle. First thing I'm going to do is line up my drive shafts and make sure we're good. I have metal U-joint style drive shafts, so I need to phase these. And by phasing, I mean I need to line up my joints to make sure that they're facing the same direction. With the stock Traxxas drive shafts with a CV style, you don't need to worry about this step. Okay. Drive shafts back in order. I'm just going to pop this back in the skid. Perfect fit. I'm going to take our 4 bolts, reattach it. Again, being very cautious not to over tighten these because they will strip out very easy. Now we're going to snake our wires back up through our battery tray. We want to maintain that nice clean look and feel with the wires. Plug it in. Now let's give it a test while we're here before we button everything up. Looking good. Got forward, backward, got good throttle. Perfect. Now what we're going to do, we're going to reattach our battery tray. Good to go, just like that. And that, my friends, is how you do a motor swap and gear swap in the TRX4M.